What up, and welcome to the Roundtable. I am your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. What's going on, my man?
I'm ready. Part two. Uh, Talking about the Rams today in preparation for the Super Bowl. We did our Bengals episode. Um, yeah, man, I'm excited.
I the further the or I'm sorry, the closer and closer we get to Sunday, it, I feel like that week break is kind of nice because you get that recharge. But then you get the Super Bowl week, and then you get closer and closer, and I start getting like those big game jitters, like that excitement. I'm like, oh man, I'm like craving it now.
It's not fun though. I don't think when it's your favorite team getting ready to play, and you have to wait that 2 weeks for
Oh,
the. I couldn't imagine what it feels like to be a player. I'm sure they're all ready to go. I bet there's how many guys out of like the 106 players or whatever are really enjoying the media right now. Do you think there's got to at least be like one person out there that loves the attention, right?
well, Uzama was pumping up the crowd, but that was local. You know, you got to pump up
Yeah,
your fans, I guess. Yeah, like,
yeah.
but like national media and like local media always like inquiring about stuff. Maybe for like the first like few days, like, oh, this is sick. You know, Super Bowl week, hell yeah. And you're like, God, man, leave me alone. I got a game to prepare for, the biggest one of my life.
Yeah. Even the long snapper is probably like, all right, I have practice. So
Yeah, the long
I don't
snapper's like
need
nobody's interviewed me, but
yeah, he's sitting there with his hand up.
yeah, it's like I'll take some questions, guys. They're getting tired of it. But as Tyson mentioned, we did the Bengals. If you weren't able to listen, go back and listen to it. How the Bengals can win the Super Bowl, that was discussed. We broke it down. So I'll bears repeating. How the Rams can win in this episode. We're not doing perfect case scenario. Oh, you know, Rams, this and that. You know, they're just bombing over the top. Stafford throws for 500 yards. Like, yeah, that in an ideal world that happens. Again, we're breaking down what we think the game plan of the Rams should be, and if they execute properly, that's how they're going to be the winner of the Super Bowl. So, how the Rams can win? I it's pretty simple for me, Tyson. When I look at the defense of the Rams, I think they have to lock up the outside of the Bengals in secondary. Now, whether or not that's going to be man coverage, if Jalen Ramsey's going to fall around Jamar Chase or not, we'll see. Or whether it is that zone defense that they're going to be sitting in that they've kind of patented, and that's what they run the majority of the time. Whether depending on whatever defense is, they have to win their matchups. Like they have to contain the receivers of the Bengals, and you're not going to be able to do it for all 60 minutes. Burrow's not going to have 50 yards passing. Like he's going to get his. Like he's a great quarterback, and it's an offensive game. Like there's going to be big plays, but you can't have broken coverages. You can't allow these guys to run free and run wild in that secondary, because then Burrow starts getting confident, and then this offense starts getting rolling. And that's when I think you may be in trouble if you're the Rams. See everything in front of you. Know where Higgins is at all times. Don't let Jamar Chase behind you. Lock things up. And if Burrow's going to beat you, make him beat you in tight windows. That's what I think the Rams need to do in this one, in that secondary, to make this for them to have success. Secondly, they have to limit mistakes on offense and on defense, but mainly on offense. We'll discuss here. Fumbling problems have become an issue in the playoffs. They have overcome them. Bad throws by Stafford, interceptions by Stafford, they have overcome them. But in this game, with so many limited possessions here, they have to limit their mistakes. They can't have 3 turnovers. They can't have a turnover on the goal line. This has to be extremely, extremely efficient possessions that the Rams do, or else the Bengals are going to take advantage, and the Bengals are going to do what they do, rally behind any big play that happens, and then all of a sudden they start get steamrolling downhill, and then that spells trouble for any team. And then lastly, commit to the run. Other teams have had success running on the Bengals, and all of a sudden they go away from it. The Rams, this is your DNA. You run the ball. Your offense is based off of the zone run. It sets everything up in your offense. It sets everything up in play action passing to set up these explosive plays that you feast on in that secondary. Commit to it. Stay to it. If it's working, don't worry about Stafford having a big game. Win the damn game. And if you have to do it by running the ball, Michelle 20 times and Akers 20 times, do it, and you'll be hosting the Lombardi Trophy.
And I think that what you just said there at the end is important too. Is like ride the hot hand and win the run game as well, because since Cam Akers came back, he's been forced the ball kind of, more than Sony, and that's part of because Darrell Henderson is out. I think he's playing or is planning on suiting up for the Super Bowl, last I read. So if that's the case, there's another weapon they get back because he went on the 3-week IR. But again, we're recording this one kind of earlier in the week, so that could be changed by the time you hear this. But I think that it's like, don't overthink it, because if Sony Michel is averaging 6 yards a carry, he should be getting the ball. Or if Cam Akers, is averaging 6 yards a carry, maybe Sony stays on the bench or Henderson stays on just one of those guys is going to be playing well, because that's just what they do. They're good football players. Ride the hot hand. I like those a lot. Just to recap, you had 3?
Yeah. Lock up the outside on defense. Limit the mistakes on offense, and then commit to running the ball. Those are my big 3 that the Rams have to do.
And yeah, I think the locking them up on outside is going to be huge, because these are not, we love Tom Brady, but the Bucks don't look like this, and on the outside, at least the athletes that the Bengals have, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, is something that the Rams haven't seen so far in the playoffs. So I think that's going to be huge. As far as what I have for the Rams to win the game, we know that Joe Burrow is the most sacked quarterback in the league, and we know that the Rams can get after the quarterback. But we also know that you have to do more against Joe Burrow than just sack him to win the game. You can't zero blitz him. And if you're the Rams, you especially can't be leaving Eric Weddle in a spot where now all of a sudden he's staring at Jamar Chase coming downhill at him, and he has to make a decision. Well, either he's going to give up 15 yards or the Bengals are going to score a touchdown. So you can't overcommit to blitzing Burrow. Get pressure without having to blitz, but obviously running a 3-4. Just get pressure, bringing 4 people or less. All right, because Aaron Donald is going to do what he does. He's the best player in the NFL. But you went out and you got Von Miller. Von Miller needs to be a game breaker, and I think that he can be that. Especially, he's getting a pretty good matchup here to show his worth, not only to the Rams but to everybody in the league. And if he can, he's the X factor for me. If Von Miller shows up and plays well, I think the Rams have a really good shot. Take care of the ball. Piggybacking off your point, they've just been too careless, not just in the playoffs but all season long, and it's really been bad. Since about week 8, week 9 in the regular season. Stafford is throwing pick sixes. They're fumbling at inopportune times. They gave the game back or tried as hard as they could against Tampa Bay just in the divisional round, just as an example. And this Bengals team, is getting pretty good at finding the ball and taking it away. And then show up. If you're the Rams, everybody on your team is, traded a first-round pick to get this guy. Traded a couple first-round picks to get this guy. Shipped out Jared Goff to bring in Matt Stafford. Go out, get Odell Beckham. Get Von Miller in the middle of the season. Cam Akers comes back. You go get Sony Michel. Basically, the complete opposite style of team building that the Cincinnati Bengals used. The Rams, this is closer to the Yankees than anything we've seen in the NFL, because they went out and they said, this guy fits with this guy. I'm not interested to see who I could draft at 29. I want to trade that. I want to go get Jalen Ramsey. This is the biggest game of his career. This is the biggest game of all of their careers. Aaron Donald said it himself. He thinks that a Super Bowl is the only thing he's missing. I don't think his legacy gets super improved if he's already a first ballot walk-in Hall of Famer. But if that's the way they're thinking, then it could be a long night for Cincinnati, because Matt Stafford might be a ring away from seeing Canton someday. Jalen Ramsey can say he's the best corner in the league all the time. There are corners, all over that can say they're the best in the league. But if Jalen Ramsey says, I just won the Super Bowl, strengthens his argument a little bit. Sean McVay needs one. Because if Sean McVay doesn't get one this time and he starts out 0-2, the narrative changes from the smartest dude ever. This guy's going to coach for 50 years too. Sean McVay can't win the big one, because now it's not Goff's fault if they don't win this game. And it wasn't Goff's fault against New England either. But we don't have to talk about that. Yeah. I think that this is, again, I'm more worried about the Rams seeing the bright lights and kind of folding in the moment than I am about the Bengals. Like we talked about last time, uh, I think Cincinnati is going to play like they have nothing to lose, and I think if the Rams come out and play like they're protecting something that should be theirs, they're going to get embarrassed.
Mm.
And I think that is going to be something we're going to be able to see, midway through the second quarter. I think if depending on if they switch up a little bit, which we've kind of seen them throttle teams, take the foot off the gas, go back to throttling them. Can't do that with Cincinnati. Can't do that in the Super Bowl.
That's a great point. I mean, because if you think about it, there's so many external factors in this game all the time in the Super Bowl. The Bengals are playing with house money. The Rams were one of the teams who were expected to be here. They expected to be here. That's why the front office went and got these players. To your point, if anybody has the pressure on them right now, it of course is the Rams. So if this game gets tight, they're going to be feeling the pressure a lot more. And McVay went and got Stafford. He said, I can't win with Goff. This is the guy I need to win. If he can't win with Stafford, that's a legacy conversation of itself for at least making you kind of scratch your head like, okay, how good is Sean McVay? Because his protege, Zach Taylor, just got here first game. Boom, all of a sudden, he's a Super Bowl champion. So I think that's a great an external angle, thinking about just different mentalities and mental makeup of this game. Now, I got a question for you. I mean, you mentioned getting home here with 4 or less for the Rams against that O-line. If you're Raheem Morris, do you move Aaron Donald around and try to locate the weak points at O-line, which I think is the right side? All game. So just maneuver him around. I would too. I think that's the best course of action here. Always have them, the offensive line for the Bengals, trying to figure out in their mind where Donald is instead of him just sitting there in front of you every play. Okay, we know where he is. If you maneuver him around, I think that helps out Leonard Floyd and helps out Von Miller because at least, they're not always thinking, okay, well, on the left side here, well, at least Aaron Donald's away from me. I got to just worry about my one-on-one matchup with Leonard Floyd. Like, oh, no, now Aaron Donald's shaded to my side. That gets a lot more interesting in my mind.
And like we love Brandon Graham. We'll use him as an example. When Brandon Graham's out there and he's hunting the mismatch, it's because when he finds a mismatch, he can get home. Aaron Donald can get home on anybody that's ever put on a pair of cleats and lined up on the offensive line. So you don't have to hunt the weak spot with Aaron Donald. The weak spot will be wherever he's at. And if the Bengals can't get in a consistent rhythm of not even just, okay, where is he at, but okay, so this play it's guard and center or double teaming Aaron Donald, and then it's tackle guard, and then it's tackle guard on the other side. If they can't ever kind of get a good handle on how they're supposed to block this guy, because by moving him around, by creating havoc basically up there, then it just takes one for Leonard Floyd to get home, and then all of a sudden we have a strip sack. It's a party in the end zone for the Los Angeles Rams, and it's a party in LA because this is just going to happen all day long. So the Bengals have to be absolutely locked in. And if I'm a Cincinnati fan, I'm terrified of that prospect just because it's not something that you can stop. You can't say Aaron Donald has to play right over the center all game long and the Rams have to follow. They'll put him where he can play safety one position. It doesn't matter. You can't control where he's going to be. And if you can't control where he's going to be, then you can't get into a rhythm yourself.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not like Orlando Pace is walking through the door to block him either. Like you are at a disadvantage in this game on paper and in execution wise against that front four. That's already a tall task.
And I think another thing that's going to be really important to keep in mind here, part of the reason I say that, bring that pressure best you can without having to bring extras, A, because it makes everything easier, but B, Joe Burrow is sneaky at getting outside the pocket and picking up 6 yards, 7 yards, and occasionally he'll pop off for 15. And
we saw it against the Chiefs.
Yes, and if you're going to empty out the middle of that field and everybody else has their backs turned because superstar pass catchers are all over the field, it's one thing when you say it about like Lamar Jackson, right? Is like, well, duh. But Joe Burrow can do this. Like this is He can and he will gladly dissect you. That's why they need to be able to. This is the smartest second-year quarterback I think I've ever seen, because they can't zero blitz him. You zero blitz him and you're screwed. It doesn't matter if it's Jalen Ramsey or what. And then whatever holes you leave, and that's part of it is by not having to bring as much pressure, it frees them up to kind of do a more hybrid style man zone defense and just sitting in that zone and letting Burrow go to work.
And try to confuse him the best you can. I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, everybody knows how smart Burrow is, just mentally really quick. They got to try something. And I think you're right, Tyson. If you don't have to bring that extra blitzer to heat him up a bit in that pocket, okay, now we can disguise a little bit. Oh, you thought that was a zone? No, it's man now. And now that linebacker's dropping back. So I completely agree. I think that's a big thing that they got to do. And that's something that they absolutely have to win. And if it forces Cincy into going into the quick pass game, well, that's why you have the ability to drop all those guys back, come up and make quick tackles, rally to the ball, and eventually force Joe Burrow into having to throw on 3rd and long. And if he beats you, that's just because the kid's really special. But, it's not anything that you did besides maybe making a mistake on that back end where they can throw it over top. Last thing I did want to touch on here, Tyson, Sean McVay has been here before as a head coach. Sean McVay is the only one with experience as a head guy on either side, obviously. How big of a factor is he going to play in this game for the Rams' success?
As big of whatever percentage you want to assign him for any given week.
You don't think so? You don't think it's bigger, or you do think it's bigger?
I don't think it's bigger this game. I think that I like Sean McVay and I think he's a good coach, but I don't know what happened to this larger than life. Like Sean McVay was like the most famous dude on the Rams when they went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, besides Aaron Donald. Like, I don't know where this level of love came from. I think he's a good coach, and I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. Clearly, he's here for the second time, but I don't think he's going to do something like I've never seen Sean McVay and then I've never walked out of a game being like, Sean McVay just absolutely outcoached such and such, especially in the bigger games, right? Belichick got the better of him. He couldn't beat the Eagles when the Eagles were at the top of the NFC, struggled with the Niners until literally the NFC Championship game, which is part of getting one of the monkeys off his back. Now, if he can get both, then we can have that conversation. But right now, to me, it's like whatever percentage that Zach Taylor can have, whatever impact he has on the Bengals winning is the impact that Sean McVay has on the Rams. Sean McVay has better players anyways.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that he's not going to figure out something about Cincinnati that nobody's done yet. He might just have better guys that are able to do it, but he's not going to be – Sean McVay is not winning Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, right. Okay, fair. That's interesting. I think I'd sign a little bit more what the Rams could do successfully to McVay. I mean, he's been here before. He knows how to get his guys prepared, at least in theory. And then in the game, man, he's got to understand that you just do whatever it takes to win. And I think maybe him learning from the loss against the Patriots, that'll help him in this one when he's actually on the field. Like, preparation-wise, you're going to prepare. You're going to watch the tape. You're going to assign assignments. And that's that. But when you're on the sideline and the bullets are flying at you and you got to make decisions, I think that's where he could have an impact on this game. Okay, maybe we do an adjustment here. Okay, I'm going to make a call here. And it seemed like they had a lack of adjustment against the Patriots. That was an issue. Like, he just didn't adjust at all. He may have to tweak some things in this one. I think that could be a big storyline in this game.
And I think that will be the storyline. If they win, I think it'll be, can you believe Sean McVay made Matt Stafford a winner? And this was the perfect marriage. And if they lose, and Matt Stafford plays bad, it's going to be Stafford chokes, blah, blah, blah. And we'll talk about one McVay play call once, and that'll be all the blame that he gets assigned. So I mean, we'll get into it on the next episode here, the betting one we got coming up. But I thought I was going to talk myself into one of these two teams as far as who I think is going to win the Super Bowl over these last couple episodes, and I didn't.
Man, well, that's a tease. I'm curious where you're going to go the next then.
Me too.
I want to know. All right. Well, in some nation, the roundtable game plan here, lock up the outside. You have to be able to cover the receivers for the Bengals. And to do that, get home with less than 4. If you can get there with 3, obviously great. They run a 3-4, bring some pressure with 4 or less, get to Joe Burrow, heat him up that way. Limit mistakes offensively. Can't be loose with the football in this game. Absolutely cannot have it. And then commit to the run. That's your DNA. That's what got you here. That's one of the weaknesses of the Bengals. Do what it takes to win. And that's the game plan for the Rams to win the Super Bowl. As Tyson alluded, tomorrow, gambling podcast coming out. We got you covered. Game picks, prop picks, exotics, your little betting sheet. If you're not a big gambler, but you're going to Super Bowl party, you're filling out your little prop sheet. Maybe we can give you some tips to win. We'll give you what we like, and it'll be a fun one.
And
it always is.
I have something at plus 150,000 that you might just put a nickel on it.
Exactly. And like I always say, like this podcast, subscribe. We're doing a lot this week, so you don't want to miss one. And then by subscribing, you can go back and listen to the old ones. You missed the Bengals one, go back and listen to that one. We're breaking everything down for you. It's going to lead all into our gambling podcast tomorrow. Share it with your friends. Follow us on Instagram. Follow the podcast on Instagram @_ the roundtable pod _ Follow me on Twitter @BWakai. Follow Tyson on Instagram @Tyson Gentry. Keep these conversations going. We are super excited for Sunday. Can't wait to watch it with you guys and just react to everything. It's going to be fantastic. And so, gambling podcast tomorrow. I'm ready for it, Tyson.
Me too. Let's make some money.
Let's make some money. We'll talk tomorrow, guys. Until next time, peace.